Hey guys, how are we going today? Hope we're all having a lovely day. I'm trying something a little bit different today. It's something I've done in the past, haven't done it for quite a while, but I thought, it's about time. I've got some things that I want to kind of destroy and then repress. So if you've been watching, you'll know that I have had one of the items in my project pan this year as being a face powder, and that was one that I had actually made from a bunch of different other face powders, and I really loved it. And I'd mentioned before in a video that I did also still have a small one of the same powder. So when I originally made it, I had enough to fill these two compacts. I was looking through my handbag the other day and I noticed that it was broken and it's just falling out everywhere. So just a second ago, this was all in one piece and I put it down on the desk and it split into two. So I'm looking at repressing this one, but I do also have a palette that I'm not particularly fond of, and I had thought to myself that there are a few eyeshadows in here that I wanted to keep. The rest I really didn't like and I really wasn't a fan of, but when I was looking at it, I found quite a few shades in here that I would be happy to repress into something else. So aside from just repressing this and what is in that little container, I'll be taking my Revolution Reloaded palette in Authority. So this was the one that I got in my advent calendar, not last year, but the year before. And I have already removed one shadow from here, and I do like to use that one as a highlighter. But when I was trying to pop it out of here, my plan originally was to take all of the eyeshadows out of here, like depot them, then keep the ones I want in a magnetic palette, get rid of the rest. So it is still a plan of mine, but there are a few shades, like these two down here, they're mattes. These two here are mattes, which I do use for, transition shades and crease shades, but I have others that I prefer the formula of. So I'm going to take these two here, and this one down here, which is also like a tanny brown colour, although it's not too dark, and I'm actually going to repress those with a bronzers. So I do already have a bit of a Franken-bronzer, which you can see in the pan here, it doesn't fill the pan. So you can see up around the edges here, it doesn't fill the entire pan. And when I got in the advent calendar, there were a lot of these little items. So this one was originally a highlighter that I just threw out because I wanted to use that, and it was a shade that I'd never used. This one is actually a baked bronzer, but it broke, so I repressed it, and you can see a couple more bits have already fallen out. So when I've repressed them, I don't know how I'm going to try and hold that up. Yeah, it's not coming up properly. When I repressed them, because I did that I think the same day that I originally made these, I don't think I pressed them hard enough. So what I'm going to do, because I do quite like Franken-bronzers, I've mixed I think 2 or 3 into this one, and they were old eyeshadows as well, and it came out really well. So I'm going to mix it with this one here that was in there and the 3 eyeshadows, so this one and these 2 here. And with the powder, I'm going to mix this one here, these 2 colours here, and this one, which is just a plain white setting powder that had come, oh no, that was an eyeshadow as well. So that was one I'd taken out of a big Chi palette that I had. The palette was honestly just taking up too much space. The eyeshadows are this big compared to, bronzers and a banana powder that is this big, and blushes that were of the same sizes as well. The eyeshadows I got rid of just because they weren't, you know, my kind of color, but I did keep that one because it was a really good like face setting powder. So I got rid of the palette. I depotted them all, put them in here because honestly there was a lot more room. I had a lot more singles that were in here as well until I got rid of them at the end of last year. But I have that many things, like bits and pieces just floating around. Like I've got, you know, my two little powders here. At the moment, I don't really have a neutrally kind of based powder. I really only have translucent powders, and I have like powder foundations. I don't really have any, you know, just standard setting powders. So I'm going to make one out of these and the two shades that were in here, and I'm going to redo the bronzers. So I'm going to flip the camera over and hopefully I'll be able to catch some of this process on camera. I may not film the whole thing, otherwise it's just going to take too long, but yeah, I'll see how we go. Let's just start with the powder first, even if I do the bronzer later, and then check in once they're all set. Okay, so I'm going to start with my little just single eyeshadow here. So I'm just going to break that up a little bit. Wow, that is really soft. I'm pretty sure I had broken this when I was depotting it, and I had repressed it anyway. I think majority of the items that I took out of that palette and had in the magnetic palette, I did break when I got them out. So I'm just going to dump that in my little bowl. I have cleaned the bowl out with alcohol. This is pretty much just my, you know, regular bowl that I happen to mix products in. When things break and I repress them, I usually just mix them up in here. So I'm just going through and scraping out all of that product. Just tap it in. Alright, there's a little bit left in there, so I'm just going to go in and use this little travel brush to like just kind of brush it in there. And I'm thinking that when I depot the shades from this palette that I do want to keep, if any of them do break, I will just put them in this little pan that I put some magnets on, so I can keep that in my magnetic palette as well. So I'm just going to bring over this one. I'm just going to plop that right in. There is a fair amount in here. With all of the powders that I did actually mix together to make this one and the other one that I had panned this year, there was so much. I think I combined like the leftovers of about 3 different powders and one that just wasn't exactly the right color. And I stuck it in here. The only problem I had, like I do love these little, you know, single pan little palette things that came in the advent calendar, and they're really helpful. A lot of the products did come as baked ones, which I think this was a pressed highlighter. The bronzer came as a baked bronzer, and the problem that I had is that there was also another baked highlighter in there, and they both just broke so easily. So the baked highlighter that the baked bronzer that I repressed over here, and the baked highlighter that I gave to my mum, they just broke so easily. And like, you know, yes, there is a lot of room in here. This extra space here did actually allow me to kind of press it down and make it flat, but you know, it's obviously not 100% you know, going to fit. So I'm just going to go in with these two next. I'll just break them up both in the palette and then mix them in together. This one is a little bit more of a pinky kind of light shade. I'm just going to move my bowl. Whoop. And this one is more of a little bit more of a brownie cream colour, which I think they'll mix together really nicely. There we go, perfect. Alright, I'm just going to tip them in there. Alright, perfect. So I'm going to give these a bit of a mush up just with the end of that brush there. I won't keep filming while I'm doing this because it is going to take a little while just to break all of that up, and I do want to make sure that it is, you know, evenly mixed. You can see there's little bits of pink over here, a little bit more browniness over here. So I'm not going to film it while I, you know, spend all the time mashing this up, just because I do think it might take a little while just to get it, you know, evenly mixed up and pressed. But I will be back in a second and show you the end result of this and the mixed up bronzer. Okay, so I have pressed the powder that I just mixed up. I didn't want to kind of keep filming while I was mixing it and then repressing it because it just took too long. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to break up the 3 from this palette first, and then this one, and then I'll do the larger one and then press it all back in there. I figured you guys would probably just want to see the fun parts of this, so I'm just going to go into this one first because it's still whole. I love it when it does that. I just love seeing makeup being broken up. Is anyone else? I think considering there's, you know, videos specifically about destroying makeup, I think that some people would. I just love the look of it. Alright, so I'm going to tip that into my bowl here. It's gone everywhere. That's alright. It's just makeup, it'll clean up. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'll give this palette a little bit of a clean in those pans. I think pretty much the only colours from here that I'm looking to keep would really be these 3 and this one. Maybe this one. I'm not quite sure about this. I don't know if I really like that. I think that might be a bit too white to be like to use as a highlighter, and normally when I do my inner corner highlight I like to use something else, so I'll think about this one. But the other 5 I will, you know, most likely try and depot, reuse somewhere else. These 2 I'm just honestly not fans of. This one in particular, and this black, it's black with glitter in it. I mean, yes, I have hit pan on that, but it was for a, you know, Halloween themed party, so I pretty much hit pan on that in one use. So I'm gonna clean that up, put it to the side. Let's go in with my little baked bronzer that is no longer baked from when I repressed it. You can see the bits just falling off. Let's wonder if I tap it, if it will just come out. Oh my god, I was not expecting that. How awesome does that look? Wow, that's so pretty. And that has a completely different base to what the other one did as well. awesome. Put that one to the side, and now I'm going to go in with my already Franken-bronzer. Oh my god, the back of this is filthy. My desk just has powder and eyeshadow all over it. You can see it up here. So let's dig in. You can see it's generally a lot thicker around the edges, like here in particular. You can see there's the ring underneath where it's been pressed down into the ring in the pan. I do love bronzers that come in these massive pans. Good enough. I'm going to give this pan a clean up. You know, not that it really needs it, but just because I'm going to be repressing all of this back into this pan, I just want to make sure that it's going to be clean and, you know, there'll be nothing to kind of stop the powder from really sticking down into there. I'm going to give this all a bit of a mix up. Oh my god, have a look at that. That is just so beautiful and satisfying to see that that was still all in one piece. I love it. All right, I will be right back. And I'm back. It's quite clearly a different day. I've waited 2 days for these to dry out a fair bit, so let's go through what we have. So I actually ended up getting enough powder for 2 of these. So the first one is just in this same compact that I was using before. You can see it's, you know, all the way up to the top. I actually couldn't press it up any further up here, otherwise it would have interrupted with the mechanism, and there was just enough to kind of put the tiniest amount in here. Yeah, so there's not too much in there, and I was able to press it down with the bottle of alcohol that I mixed in with this. So I'll show you the swatch on my hand. This one didn't press, wasn't too bad. There is a little bit of a line here from a crease that was in the tissue that I had popped over the top. And, oh wow, you can't even really see that. So I'm going to go in with a little bit more down there again. I think it's really only like when it gets to there, you can see like it's a little bit powdery, which is perfect. That's just what I wanted, exactly like the last one was. And with the bronzer, I was able to just clean that, get pretty much an entire one of these. It just fit in here. It was actually, as I was pushing it down and repressing it in there, it was really puffy. I don't know if maybe I either added too much of the alcohol or not quite enough. I think it could have gone either way. It would have been a little bit better and more liquidy if I'd have added more into it, or if I'd have added less into it, it would have been a bit drier and more firm and able to be pressed down, but it was really puffy. I think I might have actually accidentally, you know, kind of stirred a little bit of air into it as I was mixing it. But at the moment you can see the way it was repressed, because of the texture and the tissues that I was using. It looks a little bit like an elephant skin. It actually is showing up really light on the camera there. Let me see if I can turn that down. That's probably more like the colour that it is at the moment, but I'm going to pop them up just so you can see. I will give it a good swatch, and that's going to be absolutely beautiful. So it's not going to be too much darker. I did have you know, I rubbed my finger in that a fair bit there, so there's a fair amount of colour on there. So I think that will actually blend out really nicely. It's pretty similar to the bronzer that I'm wearing at the moment. Let me just grab that one out. Oops. All right, so here's the bronzer that I'm wearing at the moment. So it's pretty similar, maybe a tiny little bit darker, but when you look comparing the pans, this one looks darker. So I think it's just the lighting and how much I applied when I swatched it there. But I'm pretty happy with those, and I have actually adjusted my inventory accordingly. So where I had the pans allocated for those eyeshadows, I've removed that and made note that they went into making these 3 Franken products. I'd say that because I had this one in my handbag previously, I really honestly probably only use that maybe half a dozen times to touch up with. And what I'll do is I'll wait until I need to, you know, I've hit pan on this one far enough that I need to repress it, and then I'll mix that one back in with it. But I'm really happy with those. Once I finish with the powder in my project pan at the moment, this one will probably be the one I'm back focusing on as well. And well, not necessarily focusing on, but it will be the one that I'm using majority of the time, as well as another translucent powder that I have. So, you know, pretty much the purpose of this video was just to show that, you know, if something's not working out the way that it is designed to, there are no hard and fast rules with makeup. You know, if an eyeshadow doesn't work for you, use it for something else. So if you've got any products like this that you're struggling with using in a certain way, you know, you don't have to. You can use them in any way that you would like. So if you have any comments, any questions, please feel free to comment down below. But until then, I'll talk to you later.